Yeah, I think I'm a pretty good driver. I haven't had a ticket in over 10 years.
I don't get tickets and I don't have accidents. I feel like I'm a safe driver.
I feel I'm a pretty good driver.
And I'm proud of my driving skills.
I think I'm a good driver because I drive defensively.
My last accident was about 25 years ago.
So yeah, I'm a good driver.
I'm very proud of my driving record.
When we've been driving accident-free for a long time, we can become complacent. Yes, we know answering a phone call while driving is distracting, but maybe we think it's only dangerous for other drivers because we've done it before without incident, and we can do it again because we're such experienced drivers. While that may seem like a logical statement, unfortunately, the statistics paint a different picture. Over the next few minutes, we'll take a look at some of the behaviors that contribute to distracted driving and share with you some suggestions on how to handle those situations. Before reviewing some of the most common causes of distracted driving, let's break them down into categories. First, visual. These are distractions when the driver takes their eyes off the road, like looking for a street address, looking at a fancy car, or watching someone on the other side of the road. Manual. This is when the driver has to take his or her hands off the wheel, like reaching for a map or grabbing a sandwich. And cognitive. This involves the driver taking his or her mind off what they're doing, like having a conversation while driving, or thinking about who's going to pick up the kids or what they're going to do for the weekend. People are at risk much longer with cognitive distractions, because unlike visual or manual distractions that people tend to recognize, most people don't realize when they're cognitively distracted. Any activity that is distracting increases the chance that a driver will have an accident. For example, talking on the cell phone means a driver is 4 times more likely to be involved in an accident. And studies have shown that drivers talking on cell phones, hands-free or not, look at the road in front of them but fail to see objects in front of them. In fact, they fail to see 50% of the information in their driving environment. Reaching for a moving object, which is visual, manual, and cognitive, means the driver is 8.8 times more likely to have an accident. Reading a map while driving means the driver is 3.4 times more likely to have an accident. Turning around in your seat, 8.8 times more likely to have an accident. Texting while driving, that ranges from 8 to 23 times more likely to be in an accident. And according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, driving a vehicle while texting is 6 times more dangerous than driving while intoxicated. Think about that for a moment. The bottom line is that anything that is distracting can be dangerous. You hear a lot of drivers say, but it only takes a few seconds to send a text message. Researchers have found that sending or receiving a single text message takes the driver's eyes off the road for an average of 4.6 seconds. Think about driving blindfolded for 4.6 seconds at 55 miles per hour. That doesn't seem like much until you realize that when a vehicle is traveling at 55 miles per hour, that's the equivalent of driving blindfolded for the entire length of a football field. What if a car ahead of you slams on their brakes? Any number of things can occur, none of which are good, which is why drivers don't want to drive blindfolded. Understanding distracted driving is also important so you can spot a distracted driver while you're on the road so you don't get caught up in their accident. Driving defensively helps protect you from other distracted drivers, so you can spot them before they veer into your lane or worse. But to be a defensive driver, you can't be distracted yourself. You have to be alert and ready to make evasive maneuvers. Consider these facts. According to the National Safety Council, distracted drivers cause 25% of all accidents. That's 1.6 million accidents per year. For the most part, avoiding a distracted driving-related accident is a matter of common sense. For example, if you receive a phone call on your cell phone, let it go to voicemail. You can return the call later. If you're driving to an unfamiliar address, enter the address in the navigation system or look it up on the map before you start driving. Remember, even though we're a technology company, the use of communication technology while driving is not required or expected, except for only listening to turn-by-turn navigation instructions from tablets, which should be programmed and safely mounted or placed back in its protective sleeve before you start your engine. Or, if you use another GPS device for voice-guided turn-by-turn directions, again, the destination should be set before you start the vehicle to avoid distractions. Eating and driving. The best practice is to just say no. Having your morning coffee and driving a little easier, but consider if you hit a bump, you'll have a lap full of steaming hot coffee. So consider taking a few extra minutes to finish before you get behind the wheel. Have your favorite radio stations preset before you start your trip, and be sure to take a look at the traffic around you before you switch between presets. Multitasking is a huge problem. Backing your vehicle requires 100% of your attention to prevent accidents. If you are attempting to talk on the phone, sip a cup of coffee, or check an address at the same time, your attention to backing is less than 50%. Hitting stationary objects while backing is one of the most frequent accidents that occur at Cox. So give 100% of your attention to backing and be aware of what is around you. Remember when you first learned to drive? You paid attention to every little detail. And it's only natural, the more we drive, the more comfortable we are behind the wheel, and the easier it is to take your good driving skills for granted and feel that it won't happen to me. The reality is that while you may not have had a traffic ticket or an accident for years, and you remark about how you see other drivers texting and driving, both have no bearing on the possibility you may become involved in a distracted driving accident, whether you're the cause or the victim. The next time you do anything that distracts you from safe driving, you may become a statistic. What if you lost your job? And consider how an accident could affect you. How would that affect your family? What if you're injured? Imagine the emotional trauma you'll go through if you injure someone else or worse. Remember, it only takes once. Driving is a full-time job. Drive smart, drive safe, and do everything you can to reduce distractions. That's the formula for safe driving.